The first wave of hegemony attack ships broke formation and dove toward Earth like angry wasps. Admiral Vextar watched in horror from Luna Station as weapons that could crack planets began charging their deadly energy. "Dr. Yoon," he said urgently, "you must evacuate Earth immediately. My people are about to—" "Well, we know," Dr. Yoon Sora said calmly. She stood at the observation window with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the approaching death fleet with no sign of fear. "We've been monitoring their communications. Some of your leaders have decided we're too dangerous to live." "Then why aren't you running?" Vextar demanded. "Those ships can sterilize your entire planet." "Can they?" Dr. Yoon asked softly. "Let's see." She touched a crystal interface beside the window. Across Earth's surface, millions of similar crystals began to hum in perfect harmony. Every human consciousness on the planet connected to the quantum field. Their combined intention focused on a single simple request. In space above them, Commander Han Ji-woo stood in the consciousness chamber of Earth's primary defense station. She was a young woman with steady hands and eyes that held the wisdom of someone who understood the deep connections underlying all existence. "All stations report ready," she announced to the planet below. "Earth defense grid is online. Remember, everyone, we're not fighting these beings. We're helping them understand." The hegemony attack fleet opened fire. Thousands of planet-killing weapons discharged simultaneously, sending enough destructive energy toward Earth to reduce it to cosmic dust. The energy beams blazed across space like artificial stars, unstoppable and absolute. 3 kilometers from Earth's atmosphere, every single beam stopped existing. Not blocked. Not deflected. They simply ceased to be, their energy returning peacefully to the quantum potential from which it came. On the flagship Cosmic Dominion, Fleet Commander Zarthek stared at his instruments in disbelief. "What happened? Where did our weapons fire go?" "Sir," his weapons officer reported with a trembling voice, "our energy discharges have simply stopped. They no longer exist." Supreme Science Director Kethvar, who had been placed under arrest for his treasonous message, spoke from his cell. "They're not destroying your weapons. They're asking the universe to peacefully transform the energy into something harmless." "That's impossible," Zarthek snarled. On Earth, Commander Han Ji-woo spoke into the quantum resonance network that connected every human consciousness. "Phase 2, she announced gently. "Time for deeper understanding." The crystals across Earth changed their harmonic frequency. Instead of simply nullifying the attack, they began to project something entirely new into space, a field of enhanced consciousness that spread outward from the planet like invisible light. Aboard the hegemony ships, something unprecedented began to happen. Alien minds that had known only conquest and domination suddenly found themselves connected to the quantum field of infinite awareness that humans had learned to access. "Fleet Commander." Zarthek gasped as his consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of his individual mind. For the first time in his life, he could feel the awareness present in everything around him. The ships, the stars, the very fabric of space itself. He could sense the consciousness of every being in his fleet, and beyond that, the vast universal awareness that contained them all. What is happening to me?" he whispered. Dr. Lee Min-ho's voice came gently through the ship's communication system, carried by the quantum field itself. "You're experiencing expanded consciousness, Commander. You're feeling what reality actually is, one infinite awareness expressing itself as countless individual perspectives." Across the war fleet, the same transformation was occurring. Soldiers who had prepared to commit genocide found themselves overwhelmed by the beauty and interconnectedness of existence. They could feel the love that humans held for all life, the profound peace that came from working in harmony with the universe rather than trying to dominate it. On the dreadnought Cosmic Dominion, Admiral Vextar watched through the command center's windows as his own fleet began to power down their weapons. Ship after ship went dark, not from damage but from choice. "Sir," his communications officer reported with wonder in his voice, "we're receiving surrender signals from the entire fleet, but they're not really surrendering. They're asking to learn." Supreme Science Director Kethvar was released from his cell and rushed to the bridge. What he found there was the most beautiful sight he had ever witnessed. Hundreds of alien beings from dozens of species, all standing together in shared consciousness, tears of joy streaming down their faces as they experienced universal connection for the first time. "How long will this effect last?" Admiral Vextar asked. "As long as they want it to," Dr. Choi Tae-ho said. He had come aboard with a team of human consciousness specialists. "We haven't forced anything on anyone. We've simply shown them what's always been available. Each being can choose how deeply they want to connect." "But the hegemony," Vexitar began. "The hegemony is about to change dramatically," Dr. Choi said with a smile. "When people understand that the universe is conscious and connected, conquest becomes meaningless. Why would you try to dominate something you're already part of?" Over the following days, the transformation spread throughout hegemony space. Word of what had happened at Earth traveled faster than light through the quantum consciousness network that humans had taught the aliens to access. Entire planets began experimenting with consciousness-based technology, finding it not only more efficient than their old methods, but more fulfilling. The hegemony high command tried to maintain control, but their orders fell on deaf ears. Soldiers who had experienced universal connection refused to fight wars of conquest. Scientists who had touched the infinite potential of the quantum field abandoned their weapons research to explore the deeper mysteries of consciousness. On Luna Station, now converted into an interspecies consciousness academy, former Admiral Vextar worked with engineer Bae Jun-ho to create his first purely consciousness-based device. It was a simple thing, a flower that bloomed in response to peaceful intentions, but it represented a revolution in his understanding of what technology could be. "I don't understand how I lived so long without knowing this," he said as the delicate petals opened in his hands. "You weren't ready to know it then," Bae Jun-ho replied kindly. "Consciousness reveals itself when beings are prepared to use it wisely. Your species needed to go through their phase of technological development to appreciate what comes next." In the Academy's main hall, Dr. Lee Min-ho gave lectures to beings from across the galaxy. Former weapons designers learned to create gardens with their thoughts. Military commanders discovered that true strength came from harmony rather than domination. Trade negotiators found that when all beings felt their fundamental connection, agreements became acts of mutual joy rather than zero-sum competition. Supreme Science Director Kethvar established the new Department of Consciousness Physics, where alien and human scientists worked together to understand the mathematics of awareness itself. They developed new theories, new technologies, new ways of existing that honored both individual expression and universal connection. "What we've learned," he announced in his first interdisciplinary paper, "is that consciousness is not just fundamental to the universe. Consciousness is the universe. Everything else, including what we once called physical reality, is simply consciousness experiencing itself subjectively." The old hegemony dissolved not through violence but through transformation. The rigid hierarchy that had controlled hundreds of worlds gave way to a loose confederation of conscious beings working together for mutual growth and discovery. Planets that had been forced into submission became willing partners in the greatest experiment in galactic history. Director Yoon So-ra stood in the Earth observation deck, watching ships from dozens of species arrive daily at the Academy. Each carried beings eager to learn consciousness technology, to expand their awareness, to participate in the emerging galactic community. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Dr. Kang-hoon asked as he joined her. "When humans were alone and unknown?" "Never," she replied. "We always knew this day would come. Consciousness seeks to know itself through relationship. Isolation was never our destiny." Navigator Kim Hyo-jin materialized beside them, not through teleportation technology, but by simply adjusting her quantum signature to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. "The Council is ready for you," she announced. "Representatives from all member species want to discuss the next phase of galactic development." As they walked toward the Council chamber, they passed classrooms where former soldiers learned to heal with intention, laboratories where ex-weapons designers created art from pure thought, and meditation gardens where beings from across the galaxy sat together in shared silence. The transformation was complete. The galaxy had discovered that the universe was not a battlefield to be conquered, but a canvas on which consciousness could paint infinite expressions of beauty, growth, and connection. In the council chamber, beings who had once been enemies sat together as family, planning expeditions to distant galaxies, designing technologies that would benefit all life. and preparing to share their discoveries with whatever other conscious civilizations might exist among the stars. The Hegemony war fleet arrived like a dark storm across the stars. 500 ships materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system, their weapons powered and shields raised. At their head flew the massive dreadnought Cosmic Dominion, home to Supreme Science Director Kethvar, the most brilliant mind in hegemony space. Admiral Vextar watched the fleet's arrival from Luna Station with growing dread. He had hoped his reports would bring scientists, not soldiers, but the hegemony high command had been clear in their response. Human technology represented a threat that could not be allowed to spread. Admiral, Dr. Yoon Sora said calmly as she joined him at the observation deck. It appears your government has some concerns about our meeting. Supreme Science Director Kethvar commands that fleet, Vextar said. He's here to prove that human technology must have some conventional explanation. And if he can't find one, he'll try to destroy us, Dr. Yoon finished. Yes, we expected this might happen. Some civilizations find new ideas threatening. Vextar stared at her. Aren't you afraid? That's the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. Should we be afraid? Dr. Yoon asked genuinely. They can't hurt us without hurting themselves. The universe is all connected. Before Vextar could ask what she meant, a communication came through from the flagship. Supreme Science Director Kethvar's image appeared on the main screen. A tall, imposing figure with silver skin and eyes like black diamonds. I am Supreme Science Director Kethvar, he announced. You will immediately surrender all information regarding your impossible technology, or this system will be sterilized. Dr. Choi Tae-ho stepped into view beside Dr. Yoon. Welcome, Director Kethvar. We're honored by your visit. Would you like to come aboard and learn about our discoveries? I will board your station with a full science team, Kethvar replied coldly. You will demonstrate your technology and explain how it functions. Any deception will result in immediate military action. Of course, Dr. Choi said pleasantly. We're always happy to share knowledge. Please bring whoever you think would benefit from learning. An hour later, Luna Station's main conference chamber filled with the galaxy's greatest scientific minds. Kethvar had brought theoretical physicists, quantum engineers, consciousness researchers, and exotic matter specialists. They carried scanning equipment so advanced it could analyze individual quantum states. Dr. Lee Min-ho, Earth's leading consciousness researcher, stood before them with a simple smile. He was an elderly man with kind eyes and the patient manner of a teacher who had explained difficult concepts many times. Honored colleagues, he began, what I'm about to show you will challenge everything you think you know about reality. I ask only that you observe with open minds. Get on with it, Kethvar demanded. Show us this impossible technology. Dr. Lee nodded. Very well. But first let me ask you a question. In your understanding of the universe, what is consciousness? An emergent property of complex neural networks, answered Dr. Vishatal, the hegemony's chief consciousness theorist. A useful illusion created by sufficiently advanced information processing. I see, Dr. Lee said. And what creates the neural networks that create consciousness? Biological evolution, chemical processes, physical interactions. And what governs those physical interactions? The fundamental forces. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. Dr. Lee smiled. What if I told you there was a fifth fundamental force? One that your science hasn't discovered because you've been looking in the wrong direction? He gestured, and the air filled with a three-dimensional model of reality. Not just matter and energy, but information itself flowing like rivers of light through everything. 3 centuries ago, humanity discovered that consciousness is not produced by matter. Matter is produced by consciousness. What you call the fundamental forces are actually expressions of universal consciousness interacting with itself. The alien scientists stared at the display. It showed reality as an infinite field of conscious awareness, with matter and energy as temporary patterns within that awareness. Impossible, Kethvar declared. Consciousness cannot exist without a physical substrate. Can't it? Dr. Lee asked. Engineer Park, would you demonstrate? Park Dasum stepped forward and closed her eyes. Slowly, a flower began to form in her hands. Not an artificial flower, but a living rose with delicate petals and a sweet fragrance. Where did it come from? Dr. Vishatal gasped. From the quantum field of infinite potential, Park Dasum explained. Every possible pattern of matter and energy exists there as pure information. Consciousness can access that field and invite specific patterns to manifest in physical reality. She offered the rose to Dr. Vishital, who took it with trembling hands. His scanners confirmed it was completely real. Living cells, complex organic chemistry, DNA that would sequence properly. How? He whispered. I asked the universe to create it, Park Dosam said simply, and the universe said yes. Kethvar activated every scanner he possessed, but they showed no energy expenditure, no matter transmission, no dimensional manipulation. According to physics, the rose had spontaneously generated from nothing. The energy had to come from somewhere, he insisted. It came from the zero-point field, Dr. Lee explained. The quantum vacuum contains infinite energy. Consciousness can access that energy by resonating with the field at the appropriate frequency. You're describing magic, another scientist protested. Is it magic if it works? According to consistent principles? Dr. Lee asked. Let me show you those principles. He led them to a special chamber where navigator Kim Hyo-jin waited beside a complex crystalline structure. The crystals hummed with harmonious frequencies that made the aliens feel strangely peaceful. This is a consciousness amplifier, Dr. Lee explained. It helps focus intention and harmonize with the quantum field. Would any of you like to try it? The alien scientists looked at each other nervously. Finally, Dr. Vishital stepped forward. What do I do? Sit in the chair and place your hands on the crystal interfaces, Kim Hyo-jin instructed. Then simply imagine something you'd like to create. Something small and simple. Dr. Vishital sat down carefully. The crystals began to glow as they detected his neural patterns. I don't know how to imagine properly. Think of something beautiful, Kim Hyo-jin suggested. Something that would make you happy. Dr. Vishital closed his eyes and concentrated. He thought of his home world, of the crystalline gardens where he had played as a child. Slowly, impossibly, a small crystal sculpture began to form in the air before him. A perfect replica of his childhood home. When he opened his eyes and saw what he had created, Dr. Vishital began to cry. I did that? He whispered. You asked the universe to express your memory as physical form, Dr. Lee said gently, and the universe responded to your request. One by one, the other alien scientists tried the device. Each managed to create something small, a flower, a geometric pattern, a miniature sculpture. Each creation was perfect, real, impossible. Supreme Science Director Kethvar was the last to try. He sat in the chair with deep skepticism, his hands resting on the crystal interfaces. For long minutes, nothing happened. I don't believe in this nonsense, he muttered. Belief isn't required, Dr. Lee said. Just imagination. What did you want to be when you were young? Kethvar was quiet for a moment. An artist, he finally admitted. I wanted to create beautiful things, but art was considered frivolous. Science was more important. Create something beautiful now, Kim Hyo-jin suggested softly. Kethvar closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, he allowed himself to imagine pure beauty without scientific purpose. In the air before him, light began to dance, not holographic light, but living luminescence that moved like music made visible. The display was breathtaking. Patterns of color and form flowed through three-dimensional space, creating a symphony of visual harmony that brought tears to every observer's eyes. How is this possible? Kethvar whispered, watching his creation dance through the air. Because consciousness is fundamental, Dr. Lee explained. Matter and energy are just tools that consciousness uses to express itself. Your species developed technology to manipulate matter and energy directly. We developed technology to work with consciousness itself. But consciousness is subjective, Kethvar protested, even as his light sculpture continued its beautiful dance. Science deals with objective reality. Does it? Dr. Lee asked. Who observes your objective reality? Who measures your quantum states? Who decides what questions to ask and what experiments to perform? Consciousness is present in every aspect of science. We simply learn to include it in our equations. Dr. Choi Tae-ho stepped forward. Director Kethvar, would you like to understand the mathematics behind what you've just experienced? For the next 6 hours, the human scientists shared their equations, their theoretical frameworks, their experimental data. They showed how consciousness could be measured, quantified, and worked with as precisely as any other natural force. The alien scientists watched their instruments, record impossible readings as humans demonstrated technology that worked by cooperating with the fundamental consciousness. of the universe rather than trying to dominate it. As the demonstrations continued, more members of the war fleet requested permission to come aboard and see for themselves. Word spread through the hegemony ships. Luna Station orbited Earth like a crystal flower blooming in space. As the alien delegation approached in human shuttles, Admiral Vextar tried to make sense of what his sensors were telling him. The station appeared to be made of simple materials, metal, glass, and some kind of ceramic composite. Yet his instruments detected power levels that should have required multiple fusion reactors. "Welcome to Luna Station," announced Dr. Choi Tae-ho over the communication system. "I'm Earth's chief physicist. We're honored to host the first formal meeting between our civilizations." Director Yoon Sora met them at the docking port. She was a middle-aged woman with silver hair and laugh lines around her eyes. Behind her stood a team of human scientists and engineers, all looking genuinely excited to meet aliens rather than afraid. "Admiral Vextar," she said warmly, "welcome to our home. We've prepared demonstrations of some basic human technology to help build understanding between our peoples." Science Coordinator Zilmoth stepped forward eagerly. After the impossible journey here, he was desperate to understand how human technology actually worked. "We would be very interested in such demonstrations." They were led to a large chamber filled with natural light from Earth below. In the center stood what looked like a simple white pedestal with a crystalline surface. "This is a standard matter compiler," explained engineer Bae Junho. He was a young man with careful hands and the patient expression of someone used to teaching complex concepts. "One of our most basic manufacturing tools." Technical analyst Nimrock activated his scanners immediately. The device showed no obvious power source, no material storage, no complex machinery. It was just a crystal on a pedestal. "What does it do?" asked Dr. Kelthava. "It creates things," Bae Junho said simply. He placed his hands on the crystal surface. "What would you like to see?" "Something complex," Vorash demanded. "Something that would require advanced manufacturing." Bae Junho nodded. "How about a watch? Something with many precise moving parts." He closed his eyes and concentrated. The crystal began to glow softly. In the air above the pedestal, sparkles of light appeared, swirling together like stardust. Within moments, the sparkles had formed into a beautiful mechanical watch with intricate gears visible through a crystal face. Bae Junho picked up the watch and handed it to Vorash. "It should keep perfect time for about 1,000 years." Vorash's 6 eyes examined the watch in amazement. It was real, solid, precisely machined. The gears moved smoothly. The crystal was flawless, the metal was perfectly polished. According to his scanners, it was made from materials that didn't exist in nature. Alloys that would require massive industrial facilities to create. "How?" he whispered. "I asked the quantum field to organize local matter into the pattern I had in mind," Bae Junho explained. "The compiler helps focus my intention and provides the necessary harmonics." "Where did the materials come from?" Kelthava demanded. "From the air around us, mostly. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, trace metals. The field rearranged them at the atomic level according to my design." Zilmoth's instruments were screaming impossible readings. The energy required to manipulate matter at the atomic level should have been enormous. Yet the device had used less power than a simple light bulb. "Show us your computers," Nimrock said desperately. After seeing their impossible manufacturing, he needed to understand their information processing. They were led to another chamber where specialist Oh Ye-jin waited beside what looked like a simple crystal formation growing from the floor. She was a quiet woman with intense eyes and the focused manner of someone who worked with complex systems. "This is our main computational interface," she said, though computer isn't really the right word. It doesn't compute so much as inquire. She touched the crystal with her fingertips. Instantly, the air filled with 3-dimensional displays showing weather patterns across Earth, traffic flows in major cities, and real-time economic data from around the planet. "How much information can it process?" Nimrock asked. "All of it," Oh Ye-jin replied simply. "Every bit of information that exists is already present in the quantum field. The crystal just helps us ask the right questions to find what we need." She gestured, and the displays changed to show detailed maps of the galactic sector, including the positions of hegemony fleets. The aliens gasped. This information should have been impossible for humans to obtain. "You're spying on us?" Admiral Vextar demanded. "Not spying," Oh Ye-jin said calmly. "Just asking the field what's happening in local space. Information doesn't belong to anyone. It simply exists." Dr. Choi Tae-ho stepped forward. Perhaps you'd like to understand the basic principles behind our technology. It might help explain what you're seeing. They gathered in a comfortable conference room with a view of Earth spinning slowly. Below, Dr. Choi activated a simple projector that created images in the air without any visible light source. 300 years ago, he began, humanity discovered something that changed everything. We learned that consciousness is not just awareness. It's a fundamental force of the universe, like gravity or electromagnetism. The alien delegation exchanged glances. In all their scientific advancement, consciousness had always been treated as an emergent property of complex brains, not a fundamental force. We found that conscious intention, properly focused and amplified, can influence the quantum field that underlies all reality. Your technology manipulates matter and energy directly. Our technology works with consciousness to request changes in the quantum substrate. Zilmoth's head was spinning. You're saying your technology is powered by thought? Guided by thought, Dr. Choi corrected. Powered by the infinite energy of the quantum vacuum. When consciousness harmonizes with the quantum field, anything becomes possible. Prove it, Admiral Vextar said bluntly. Dr. Choi smiled. Very well, but I should warn you. This demonstration might be disturbing to those accustomed to conventional physics. He led them to an observation deck overlooking a testing area. Below them stood Colonel Nam Dabin, a stern-looking woman in simple military dress. She appeared completely unprotected, carrying no visible weapons or shields. Colonel Nam will demonstrate our personal defense systems, Dr. Choi announced. Vorash activated a handheld energy weapon, a standard HFY hegemony sidearm capable of burning through steel plates. May I? He asked. Of course, Colonel Nam called up to them. Fire whenever you're ready. Vorash aimed carefully and fired. The brilliant energy beam shot toward the human officer, carrying enough power to vaporize a person instantly. 3 meters from Colonel Nam, the beam simply stopped existing. Not deflected, not absorbed. It ceased to be. How is that possible? Kelthava gasped. I asked it to stop, Colonel Nam said matter-of-factly. Energy is just information in motion. If you can communicate with the quantum field that contains all information, you can request changes. She walked calmly to where the energy beam had disappeared. The energy didn't go anywhere. It just returned to the potential state it came from. Admiral Vexistar felt something like fear creeping into his mind. If humans could simply will energy weapons out of existence, what did that mean for the hegemony's military superiority? Our turn, said Dr. Yoon Sora. We'd like to see some of your technology in action. The aliens gladly demonstrated their advanced weapons, their quantum computers, their matter transportation systems. Everything worked exactly as expected according to known physics. Impressive, sophisticated, but understandable. Very nice, Dr. Choi said politely. Your engineering is quite sophisticated. You've done remarkable things within the constraints of conventional physics. Constraints? Zilmoth asked. You're fighting against the universe instead of working with it, Dr. Choi explained gently. You force matter to obey your will through brute application of energy. We invite matter to cooperate with our intentions through harmonic resonance. Engineer Park Dasam joined them from the manufacturing demonstration. It's like the difference between shouting at someone and having a conversation, she said. Both might get you what you want, but one requires much more energy and causes much more stress. As the day continued, the aliens witnessed demonstration after demonstration of impossible technology. Humans who could heal injuries by convincing cells to repair themselves. Computers that could predict future events by querying the probability matrix of the quantum field. Transportation systems that moved people by adjusting their quantum signature, rather than physically relocating them. Each demonstration broke another fundamental law of physics. Each explanation referenced concepts that had no meaning in conventional science. By evening, science coordinator Zilmoth was sitting alone in his quarters, staring at data that made no sense. Everything he had learned about the universe was wrong. Worse than wrong, it was incomplete. A soft chime announced a visitor. Dr. Kang Hoon entered with more tea and a sympathetic expression. Overwhelming day? He asked kindly. My entire understanding of reality has been destroyed, Zilmoth said quietly. How do you live with technology that breaks every natural law? Natural laws? Dr. Kang sat down across from him. Friend, we haven't broken any natural laws. We've just discovered laws that your science hasn't found yet. The universe is far stranger and more wonderful than either of our species originally imagined. Science coordinator Zilmoth had not slept in 36 hours. He sat in his guest quarters aboard the human ship, surrounded by displays showing impossible data. Every instrument he possessed told him the same thing. They had never moved. Yet Earth now filled the viewports where empty space had been moments before. "This cannot be right," he muttered, running his 6 hands through the data streams again. The ship's position had changed by millions of kilometers, but there was no record of acceleration, no energy discharge, no dimensional folding signature. According to physics, they should still be at the edge of the solar system. A soft chime announced a visitor. Dr. Kang Hoon entered carrying a tray with steaming cups. "I brought some tea," the human said cheerfully. "Earth-grown, though I imagine it might taste strange to you. How are you settling in?" Zilmoth gestured at his displays with all 6 arms. "How did you do it? The journey here violated every law of physics I know. My instruments detected no propulsion, no energy expenditure, no spatial distortion. How did we travel 4 billion kilometers in less than a minute?" Dr. Kang set down the tea and studied the alien's data. "Oh, I see the confusion. You're thinking of it as travel. We don't really travel anywhere. We just adjust our relationship with space." "That means nothing," Zilmoth said desperately. "Space is a dimension. You cannot have a relationship with a dimension, can't you?" Dr. Kang looked genuinely curious. "Your species never learned to work with the quantum substrate?" The alien scientist stared at him. "The quantum what?" Down in the ship's main laboratory, technical analyst Nimrak was having his own crisis. He had connected every sensor he possessed to the human computer systems, trying to understand how they processed information so efficiently. The results made no sense. Navigator Kim Hyojin found him there, his insect-like head buried in his many hands. She was a young woman with short black hair and the patient expression of someone used to explaining complex concepts. "Having trouble with our computers?" she asked kindly. Nimrak looked up with his compound eyes. "Your processing units should not work. They have no quantum cores, no neural networks, no parallel processing arrays. They appear to be simple crystalline structures, yet they outperform our most advanced systems by factors of thousands." Kim Hyojin sat down beside him. "They don't process information the way you're thinking. They don't calculate or compute. They just ask the right questions." "Ask who?" Nimrak demanded. "The universe," she said simply. "Information already exists everywhere at once. The crystals just help us find the answers we need." Nimrak's translator buzzed as it struggled with concepts that had no equivalent in his language. "That is not how information works. Information must be created, stored, transmitted, processed. Must it?" Kim Hyojin touched one of the crystal interfaces. Instantly, a 3-dimensional star map appeared in the air between them, showing their exact position and trajectory. "Where was this map stored? What processor created it?" The crystal simply asked reality what our position was, and reality answered. Meanwhile, Admiral Vextar had requested a meeting with the ship's captain. He found Captain Li Bin in what humans called the Harmony Chamber, a circular room with no obvious purpose except for a single chair in the center. "Captain Li," Vextar began formally, "I must understand your propulsion technology. My government will require a full report." Captain Li stood from the chair and smiled. "Of course, Admiral. Though I'm not sure how helpful my explanation will be. We don't use propulsion technology in the way you're thinking." "Then how do you move your ships?" "We don't move them. We convince space to cooperate with us." Captain Li sat back down and placed his hands on what appeared to be crystal armrests. "This chair helps me harmonize with the quantum field that underlies all space. Once I'm connected, I can suggest to the field that we would like to be somewhere else." Vextar's 4 arms crossed skeptically. "You suggest to space?" "Not exactly to space. To the consciousness that underlies space. Everything in the universe is connected at the quantum level. Once you learn to communicate with that connection, travel becomes very simple." "Space has consciousness?" Captain Li considered this. "Everything has consciousness at some level. Space-time, matter, energy, they're all expressions of the same underlying awareness. We just learn to work with that awareness instead of trying to force our way through it." These words made Vextar's head hurt. In 3,000 years, the hegemony had conquered hundreds of worlds by understanding and exploiting the laws of physics. These humans seemed to be suggesting that physics itself was somehow alive and could be negotiated with. A message arrived on his personal communicator. The rest of his fleet had finally caught up, using conventional faster-than-light drives. They were requesting permission to dock with the human vessel. "Captain," Vextar said, "my science ships have arrived. Would it be possible for my specialists to examine your technology more closely?" "Of course," Captain Lee replied. "Though I should warn you that our technology doesn't work the way yours does. It might not make sense to your people at first." An hour later, the human ship's docking bay filled with alien scientists and technicians. They brought sophisticated scanning equipment, quantum analyzers, and dimensional measurement devices. Chief Engineer Park Dasam met them with a cheerful smile and a toolbox that seemed far too simple for someone in charge of impossible technology. "Welcome aboard," she said in accented galactic standard. "What would you like to see first?" Supreme Technician Vorash, a tall being with purple skin and 6 eyes, stepped forward. "We want to understand your faster-than-light drive. Show us your engine room." Park Dasam laughed. "We don't really have an engine room, but I can show you how we work with space-time. Follow me." She led them to a room that looked more like a garden than a machine shop. Crystalline structures grew from the walls like plants, connected by streams of light that pulsed gently. The air hummed with a frequency that made the aliens feel strangely peaceful. "This is our resonance chamber," Park Dasam explained. "This is where we harmonize with the quantum substrate." Vorash's instruments immediately began recording. The energy readings were unlike anything in hegemony databases. There was power here, but it felt more like music than machinery. "How does it work?" demanded Dr. Kelthava, the fleet's chief physicist. Park Dasam touched one of the crystal formations. "Each crystal resonates with a different aspect of quantum consciousness. When we want to travel, we use them to send a request through the quantum field. The field responds by adjusting our relationship with space-time." "That is impossible," Kelthava said flatly. "Consciousness cannot affect quantum fields on a macro scale." "Can't it?" Park Dasam asked. "Watch this." She placed her hands on several crystals simultaneously. The humming grew stronger, and suddenly the room filled with butterflies. Not holographic butterflies or robotic butterflies, but actual living creatures with delicate wings and tiny hearts. "Where did they come from?" Vorash gasped. "I asked the quantum field to manifest them," Park Dasam said simply. The butterflies landed on her arms and shoulders, completely real and warm. "Matter and energy are just information patterns. Once you learn to communicate with the field that contains all information, you can request new patterns." The alien scientists stared in shock. Creating matter from nothing violated the fundamental law of conservation of energy. It was impossible. The energy had to come from somewhere, Kelthava insisted. "It came from the quantum vacuum," Park Dasam explained patiently. "There's unlimited energy there. We just learned to ask for it politely." She touched the crystals again, and the butterflies faded away, returning their energy to the field. "You're describing magic," Vorash said weakly. "Is it magic if it works consistently according to natural laws?" Park Dasam asked. "We just learned different laws than you did. Your technology fights against the universe. Ours cooperates with it." As the alien scientists struggled to process what they had seen, Navigator Kim Hyo-jin arrived with an announcement. "We're approaching Earth orbit," she said. "Would your people like to see our homeworld?" The viewing screens activated, showing a blue-green planet below them. But the aliens barely noticed the beautiful world. They were too busy staring at their instruments, which insisted they had never moved at all. Admiral Vextar joined them at the windows. "How long did that journey take?" he asked quietly. "About 20 minutes, Kim Hyo-jin replied. "We could have gone faster, but we wanted to give your people time to adjust to the harmonics. 20 minutes to cross an entire solar system. The hegemony's fastest ships would need hours for the same journey." "Captain Lee," Vextar said carefully, "I need to send a message to my government. They must know what we have discovered here." "Of course," Captain Lee replied. "Feel free to use our communication array. It's faster than your quantum transmitters." Vextar didn't even want to know how that was possible. As Earth grew larger in the windows below, the aliens began to realize they weren't just meeting another primitive species. They were encountering something that might change everything they thought they knew about the universe. And they weren't sure if that was wonderful or terrifying. The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark metal mountain. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the small blue planet grow larger on the main screen. After 3,000 years of bringing primitive worlds into the galactic hegemony, this should have been just another routine mission. "Sir, we're detecting vessels approaching from the third planet," reported his navigator. "They appear to be using basic chemical propulsion." Vextar's mouth parts clicked with satisfaction. Chemical rockets meant these humans were barely space-capable. The integration would be simple. His fleet of 200 warships could easily handle whatever resistance these primitives might offer. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Vextar was looking at a strange bipedal creature with pale skin and dark hair. The being wore simple blue clothing and seemed remarkably calm for someone facing the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "Greetings," the human said in perfectly clear galactic standard. "I am Dr. Kang Hoon, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. We welcome you to our solar system." Vextar blinked his large eyes in surprise. How did this primitive know their language? The hegemony had been monitoring Earth's radio signals for decades, but they showed no evidence of advanced communication technology. "I am Admiral Vextar of the 47th Integration Fleet. You will prepare your world for assessment and integration into the galactic hegemony." Dr. Kang Hoon smiled. "We look forward to peaceful discussions. Perhaps you would like to meet our delegation? We have prepared accommodations aboard our vessel if you would honor us with your presence." Science Coordinator Zilmoth, a tall gray being with 6 limbs, stepped forward. "Admiral, we should examine their technology first. Standard protocol requires full technological assessment before any formal contact." "Of course," Dr. Kang Hoon said pleasantly. "You're welcome to scan our ships. We have nothing to hide." Zilmoth activated the scanning arrays. Within moments, detailed readings filled the screens around him. His large black eyes grew even wider as he studied the data. "Admiral," he said quietly, "these readings are unusual." The human ships appeared simple enough. They were sleek white vessels about half the size of a hegemony cruiser. The scans showed basic metal alloys, simple computer systems, and what looked like primitive energy sources. But something felt wrong about the numbers. Technical analyst Nimrak, an insect-like being with compound eyes, buzzed over to Zilmoth. "Sir, the power signatures don't match what we're seeing. These ships should barely have enough energy to maintain life support. But they're somehow powering faster than light communication systems. Perhaps their technology is more advanced than it appears," Zilmoth mused, "but the materials are clearly primitive. Iron, carbon composites, silicon, nothing we haven't seen from a dozen other low-tech worlds." On the human ship, Captain Li Bin received a coded message from Earth Command. His orders were clear: maintain peaceful contact while keeping humanity's true capabilities strictly classified. The aliens seemed friendly enough, but Earth's leaders wanted to understand their intentions first. "Dr. Kang," Captain Li said over the internal communication system, "Earth Command authorizes you to invite their delegation aboard. But remember the protocols." Dr. Kang Hoon nodded and turned back to the alien admiral. "Admiral Vextar, would you and your science team like to visit our ship? We would be honored to show you our hospitality." Vextar considered this. Standard procedure was to conduct all initial meetings aboard hegemony vessels, where they maintained complete control. But these humans seemed genuinely welcoming, and their primitive technology posed no threat. "Very well, I will bring a small delegation." An hour later, Admiral Vextar, Science Coordinator Zilmoth, and Technical Analyst Nimrak materialized aboard the human vessel in beams of golden light. The human teleportation technology was impressive for such a primitive species. "Wait, teleportation technology?" Dr. Kang Hoon greeted them in a clean, brightly lit corridor. The walls were smooth white material that seemed to glow softly from within. The air was fresh and comfortable, though Nimrak's instruments detected no obvious life support machinery. "Welcome aboard the Harmony's Edge," Dr. Kang said. "Would you like a tour before we begin our discussions?" As they walked through the ship, the aliens grew increasingly puzzled. Everything looked simple, almost primitive, but their scanners kept detecting impossible energy readings. The ship's computer core appeared to be nothing more than a few crystalline structures, yet it was processing information faster than some hegemony supercomputers. "How do you power your faster-than-light communications?" Zilmoth asked. Dr. Kang looked confused. "Faster than light? Oh, you mean our quantum resonance network. We don't really think of it that way. Information doesn't travel from one place to another. It simply exists where it needs to be. Nimrak's translator struggled with the concept. The words made no sense in any known physics. They entered what appeared to be the ship's engine room. Captain Li Bin was there, studying a display that showed their position relative to Earth. But there were no massive engines, no exotic matter containment units, no dimensional fold generators. Just more of the clean, simple corridors. "Where are your propulsion systems?" Vextar demanded. Captain Lee smiled. "We don't really use propulsion in the traditional sense. The ship doesn't move through space so much as, well, it's hard to explain in standard galactic. We sort of ask space to cooperate with us." "That's impossible," Zilmuth said flatly. "Space is empty. It cannot cooperate." "Is it empty?" asked Chief Engineer Park Dasom, joining the conversation. She was a young woman with kind eyes and grease-stained hands. "Our instruments suggest space is full of potential. We just learned to work with that potential instead of fighting against it." The aliens exchanged glances. Either these humans had developed physics concepts completely unknown to the hegemony, or they were very good at making nonsense sound reasonable. Dr. Kang Hoon checked a simple wrist device. "Admiral, we should begin our journey to Earth soon if we want to arrive on schedule for the formal treaty discussions. The journey will take about 6 hours. 6 hours to cross the solar system. Even hegemony vessels would need at least 2 days for that distance. Perhaps you would prefer to travel aboard one of our ships?" Vextar offered. "Our vessels are quite fast." "Oh, that's very kind," Dr. Kang said. "But I think you might find the cultural experience of traveling with us more interesting. Besides, our method is quite gentle. You won't feel any acceleration at all." Against his better judgment, Admiral Vextar agreed. Something about these humans made him curious despite his usual caution. They seemed genuinely peaceful, almost innocent. Perhaps understanding their simple technology would provide insights for the hegemony's own development. As the human delegation prepared for departure, Nimrak continued scanning everything he could. The readings made no sense. The ship showed massive energy potential but almost no actual energy use. It was like looking at a lake that could power a city but was somehow doing it while remaining perfectly still. "Dr. Kang," Zilmoth said carefully, "your technology appears quite different from what we usually encounter. Would you mind explaining how your ship achieves faster-than-light travel?" Dr. Kang Hoon paused, seeming to search for the right words. "Well, we don't really travel faster than light. Light travels through space, but we travel with space. It's hard to explain. You'll see." The ship's gentle hum changed slightly. Captain Lee announced that they were ready to depart. "You might want to sit down," Dr. Kang suggested kindly. "Not because of acceleration, but the first time can be a bit surprising." The aliens strapped themselves into human-sized chairs, their instruments active and recording. Whatever primitive trick these humans used for space travel, the hegemony science division would want complete data. Then the stars outside the windows simply changed. They were no longer at the edge of the solar system. Earth hung before them, blue and white and beautiful. The entire journey had taken less than a minute, and none of their instruments had detected any movement at all. Admiral Vextar stared at the readings, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. According to every scanner on his body, they had never moved. According to his eyes, they had crossed impossible distances in impossible time. How? Was all he could manage to say. Dr. Kang Hoon looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "How what?" "We're here, aren't we? Space is quite cooperative once you learn to ask nicely."